Stay with issues from Sudan, and a Cape Town woman who was teaching in Sudan is among those who have made it home. Of course, more than 60 South Africans were evacuated amid clashes between two rival generals in the capital. Today, our senior reporter Ayesha Ismail visited Sharon Dreyer, who is safely back home in Cape Town. Ayesha, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, just listening to what eNCA is saying about how unstable and how terribly worrying the situation at the borders is, it's such a relief that most of the South Africans are home, and if not home, en route. Talk to me about what Sharon had to tell you. I mean, it must have been a terrifying time.
Well, Sally, we drove out this morning all the way to a little dorpie called Hopefield, and that is where Sharon is staying at the moment with her son. And she was talking to me about her journey from Sudan to Egypt, from Egypt to Nairobi, Kenya, and then, of course, from Kenya to South Africa. And it wasn't an easy journey. And she started off by telling me about, how it was to be in Sudan. She'd been there for 5 years. She loved teaching the little children there. She was the principal of the school in Khartoum. And she said that she was there under al-Bashir. She was there when there was a coup. And they were hearing talks about, as she talks about, trouble brewing. But they did not expect anything to happen, because she says it also happened during the holy month of Ramadan, and they were expecting something to happen after Ramadan, if at all. But let's listen to what Sharon Dreyer had to say to me in this little town of Hopefield today.
We used to be every week, twice a week, there used to be demonstrations. So you become like used to it at the end of the day. You hear gunshots, you hear tear gas and stuff. I've been exposed to all of that. So for me, it became part of your life, because usually with protests, it starts from 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock, everything is over. Then you can go outside. The next day you can walk around as if nothing happened. But then on the 6th of April, right, we heard our boss told us, my director told all of us, we have to stay home, because the military was going to sign a paper to say who is going to be rule in Sudan. They went back on the Sunday, and the whole week things were brewing by saying none of them wanted to agree to sign who's going to be in charge. So we just thought, okay, maybe this whole thing will only start after Ramadan and after Eid, because we knew it was Ramadan and it's Eid, because it's supposed to be the holy thing.
And of course, things did not calm down, and we've heard so many of those stories of how desperate people were getting in the capital. But she did manage to get out. Talk to us about that journey home. First of all, was she assisted by this big bus convoy that was organised with DIRCO, the International Relations Department, and Gift of the Givers and others, or did she make her own way out?
What was interesting, Sally, is that she said that she and some other South Africans had befriended people who worked for the United Nations. And when the bombs started flying, as she said, they then sought refuge in this hotel where the United Nations had housed their people. And they stayed there for a couple of days. And she said she really didn't think that she would make it out alive, despite the fact that she was staying in a 5-star hotel. She said the UN bus then came and collected their people. Another taxi then came and collected more people. And then she said there was another vehicle that had arrived at the hotel, and these were Turkish citizens who had come to collect some of their people. And she and some other South Africans then caught a ride to the border, hoping that now they would be safe. And she said this was 16 hours without food and without water. And they thought that everything would be fine once they got to the border. But she said once they got to Egypt, there was chaos on the Sudanese side. They didn't have passports. She also said that the officials would not talk to them because they were women. She said it was very difficult for them to use the ablution facilities. And eventually, when they got onto the Egyptian side, things were as chaotic as it was on the Sudanese side. But she said eventually they did get onto this aircraft that was supplied by the South African National Defence Force. They were then taken to Nairobi. From Nairobi, they went to Johannesburg. But she said all along that journey, while she was on the flight, she said she was still not thinking that she would make it home alive. She wanted to reach Johannesburg first and then Cape Town, so that she could, give the sigh of relief. But this is what she said to me about that journey.
Of course, we were all scared and we were all panicky, but we tried to keep ourselves, calm. Then we heard the RSF ran into our flat because they wanted to use it as a point for them, lookout point, yes, a base. Then they moved into the one by us. And we had some dogs, this is what I think. We had some dogs, and the dogs were barking, they shot the dogs, they didn't care. Then they ran into our flat, and of course they told our security to get out of the way. And he said, but there are still foreigners in, which is called Khawajas. And of course he said, try and get us out. Then they managed to get 2 Sudanese drivers to take us out, and they rode with the UN cars. And because I was with myself and my 2 flatmates, we were South Africans, we were with them, the UN, so they were evacuated to the Al Salam Hotel.
So, a big sigh of relief now, but the reality is, we have heard the stories of dead bodies in the streets, ongoing shell fire, even to witness animals being shot so brutally. It's just a horrible experience. But she's home now. What are her plans? I mean, she said to you that she loved teaching in Sudan. It doesn't look like it's going to be safe there anytime soon. Is she just going to have to pick up the pieces of her life and start again in South Africa? What are her plans?
Well, Sally, talking to Sharon was very interesting because she was saying she would rather go back to Sudan, but she's not sure what she is going to go back to. She said by the time she left, her school had been destroyed. Her hotels had been destroyed. The apartment where she was staying in had been destroyed. But what's interesting is she says that despite the war going on there, she felt safer being in Sudan than being in South Africa. She talked about the fact where you could walk around with your bag open and somebody would say to you, "Excuse me, ma'am, your bag is open." Where in South Africa, somebody would grab your bag or they'd put their hand in your bag and steal whatever is inside your bag. And so it's interesting that she would say to me that, she would go back to Sudan once everything has quieted down. She says she loves teaching and she wants to go back and to teach. As she said, I want to teach my little ones. And she talks about the fact that she was teaching 5- and 6-year-olds, and even they were able to read. And she said these kids loved reading. And that is what she's going to be missing most about living in Khartoum, the fact that she was able to teach these little ones to read and to write. But I did ask her how it felt to sleep in Cape Town, in an area that is relatively quiet. And she said she would sleep for a few hours and then she would wake up because she would imagine hearing gunfire, bombs going off, planes flying over the house, and then she would doze off again. But she's hoping that she would be able to pick up the pieces because remember, she, like other people as well, they've left everything behind. She came back with one bag. Some people came back with nothing, just with the clothes on their backs. So she says she's over 60. She's not going to be able to find a job in South Africa. She is, she's left everything behind. Her life was in Sudan. So it's going to be very difficult for her, and I guess for other people who have lived there for a very long time, to return to South Africa now and to start a new life here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's quite shocking that she felt much safer in Sudan, obviously apart from the last few weeks, because South Africa, we have a massive crime problem. We have ongoing load shedding. We have systems that are not working effectively, and that is a real indictment on where we are as a country, and something that I think gives us all much pause and much food for thought. Thank you so much for bringing us that story. Senior reporter Ayesha Ismail coming to us live from Cape Town this evening.